that came to the U.S. for treatment. Sparky, break it off in BlackRock, make Ukraine Russia again. Hart, 02, if enough people did exploit the tax loopholes, how do you think the haves would react? Thank you. All right, folks, we got one more segment for you guys tonight. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobbular in for Jimmy through today. He'll be back on Wednesday. So this is our swan song for the time being. L.A. Water Chief knew about empty reservoir, broken hydrants months before fires. Report, this is local ABC News in L.A. Los Angeles' water chief reportedly knew about an empty reservoir and broken fire hydrants months before the deadly wildfires now spreading across the city that have left some communities in ashes. The Daily Mail reports the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power CEO Janice Quinones was hired by Mayor Karen Bass on a $750,000 salary in May. Now, LA Fire Department insiders are blaming Quinones for a nearby reservoir disconnection and broken fire hydrants, the outlet reports, claiming this has led to firefighters running out of water. The Mail reports that Quinones' past employer was linked to fire scandals. Quinones previously held a top executive role at electric company PG&E. The company previously went bankrupt over liability for several California wildfires, the outlet reports. Quinones reportedly oversaw the emptying of the Santa Ynez Reservoir in the Pacific Palisades area during brush fire season, sources told the outlet. That's the 117 million gallon reservoir that was empty when they needed it. The reservoir was designed to hold 117 million gallons of water, but was taken offline recently to fix a tear in the cover, the LA Times reported Friday. Former DWP General Manager Martin Adams told the Times that having the reservoir would have helped fight the Palisades fire. An LAFD source told the Daily Mail that DWP officials said had it not been closed, they probably would have been okay and had enough water for the fire. So that's a pretty damning quote right there. During a press conference amid the fires this week, Quinones said fire crews ran out of water due to, quote, low pressure in the system because they were using water faster than it was being replenished. The source, a former LAFD senior official, told the Mail lack of water was a common problem with a failure by DWP to fix fire hydrants. A current LAFD member told the outlet some fire hydrants were not working in the Palisades area during the fires this week. California Governor Gavin Newsom is demanding an independent investigation into Los Angeles' power and water departments after firefighters say many hydrants ran out of water. He is also looking into the reported reservoir closure. Newsom shared a letter addressed to Quinones on his X account. So here we go. All right, here comes the damage control from Newsom. New, I'm calling for an independent investigation into the loss of water pressure to local fire hydrants and the reported unavailability of water supplies from the Santa Ynez Reservoir. We need answers to ensure this does not happen again, and we have every resource available to fight these catastrophic fires. Every time I hear the word again, makes me want to punch a wall, because there's not going to be an again. I don't see you building this city back to what it was. There was another interview, it's not related to this segment, where he's talking about, we're going to build LA 2.0. LA 2.0.
I saw that. Yeah.
Try LA 0.5. Like, you're not going to be able to build it back to what it was, I don't think. I don't think you're going to have the resources available. I think a lot of people are going to leave. Right after this, and unfortunately, tragically, there's just nothing. There's just no way of envisioning how, on a scale like Los Angeles, you're able to build back to what it is. Even if you have the will to do it, the amount of time that's going to take, it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. New Orleans was never the same after that hurricane. It was never the same. They never had the I shouldn't say it's just a matter of capital, but you had an exodus of people. It was just it never really grew back.
The people who made New Orleans left.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You know,
Yep.
you could see it even as an outsider. When I went back, it wasn't the same. Like
Yep.
that New Orleans. If anyone, a great show about post Katrina, New Orleans is Treme. Same guy did The Wire, and very much similar style. Very very journalistic kind of a way of approaching the question from every angle, from every social class, and it really captured how, for people who loved what it had been, they were just in mourning because this very odd, unique, eccentric, one-of-a-kind place was gone, and you almost didn't realize how fragile it was until it was gone forever, right? Now, L.A., yeah, it's what is a city if not its people, right? When you get a lot of the people are just not going to come back, because why would they? You start rebuilding. What happens when the next fire comes? Because this is not just because they didn't rake enough leaves. It is partly the nature of the region.
Yeah, and this was it. This was the chance. This was your chance, you know, for the governor to say, well, we can't let this happen again. I mean, that's like saying we can't let 9/11 happen again. I mean, you know,
Right.
I mean, this was the big one. This was the big one. Gavin Newsom also went on Pod Save America, thought it was a good idea to take time out of the schedule, even though the fires are still raging, barely contained. They're a little above 0% containment now, thankfully, but still well under 50%. He thought it was a good idea to go and save face on a Democrat-friendly show here, Pod Save America. You'll see the same thing here. I demand answers. I wanted to get to the bottom of what happened.
The answers. So I'm the governor of California. I want to know the answer. I've got that question. I can't tell you about how many people, what happened. My own team saying what happened, and I want to get the answers. And I wasn't getting, I'll be candid with you, I wasn't getting straight answers.
Yeah.
I watched the press conference. I met with some of those leaders. We had my team start talking to local leaders, saying what's going on. Our state.
And you weren't getting straight answers from.
I was getting
leaders.
different answers. When you start getting different answers, then I'm not getting the actual story. And they're assessing it. And I get that as well. You have to, a little bit of grace, back to the point. We're in this emergency environment and everything else. So I just want to determine the facts. But no one has any patience anymore. In this weaponized, back to the grievance of Trump, everyone else, there's immediacy. And lies travel the proverbial world. And it's hard to get the facts out there unless you have backing of those facts and you can communicate them soberly. And so that's what we're trying to achieve as relates to this. But I have 10 other things we're doing concurrently as well. I mean, across the board on recovery, on disaster assistance, getting the major disaster declaration. It may be the first one in U.S. history over a text with the White House within literally 36 hours to get 100% reimbursement for folks out here. We've been working concurrently in all of these areas. We're doing executive orders as I speak as it relates to recovery and land use, dealing with speculation and fraud, and trying to address issues on the Coastal Commission here and address the issue of planning permits and how we address all of the myriad of needs for small businesses, all of this in real time. Again, as the state, even though this is not a state responsibility, are to support the city and the county that are overwhelmed at this moment.
All right, so you see there was a bullshit sandwich there where at the beginning he says, you know, I'm not getting straight answers from those underneath. You don't want to punch down the chain of command as the governor. You also don't want to say, as he says there at the end, this is not a state responsibility, it's a local responsibility. What are you kidding? I mean, what are you, nuts? If New York City were wiped out in a tornado, would Kathy Hochul be able to say, well, I mean, this is really the mayor's problem.
It's a local issue.
It's a local issue. It's not. You could argue it's a national issue. You could argue the National Guard should be there now, right? You could argue it's too big for even the governor. It's certainly not a smaller responsibility than his. If anything, it's an even larger one, which would, of course, encompass him as well. So there you have it. More of that. The Babylon Bee, notice the irony, Newsom demands answers from whoever's in charge of California. Yes, good headline there. The Mail reports that Quinones's past employer was linked to fire scandals. PG&E went bankrupt over liability for several California wildfires, the outlet reports. The fires have burned more than 12,000 homes and other structures when they first began popping up around a densely populated 25-mile expanse north of downtown L.A. At least 11 people have been killed, as I understand that is now over 20. as of this recording. So, this was published over the weekend, with 5 from the Palisades fire and 6 from the Eaton fire. According to the LA County Medical Examiner's Office, no cause has been identified yet for the largest fires. So you could see, obviously, Newsom trying to make this someone else's fault. See, I think politically, they realize just how catastrophic this is for them. And I think that the argument that this was inevitable isn't quite sellable because of the fact that while, yes, obviously, hurricane force winds plus an 8-month-long drought means there's going to be fires, that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem is that the mayor knew of these circumstances at the beginning of the year. There were reports that from the 7th through the 9th was going to be extremely risky for fires. She leaves the country. And where is the preparation at the state level? Where is the coordination of local municipalities? It's a common thing among like small towns. Like if a fire breaks out in a really small town in Pennsylvania, they won't just have the town fire department come and put out the fire. They'll pull in fire departments from surrounding towns. Given the scale of Los Angeles and given the recent history of catastrophic fires in Los Angeles, I think you need similar coordination between the LA Fire Department and surrounding municipal fire departments. You just have to have all hands on deck, not because you can eliminate damage, but 12,000 structures burned. If you save 500 of them, that's 500 homes or 500 storefronts, right? Or 500 office buildings. Like, you do have a responsibility to do what you can. I don't think anybody is saying that this all could have been avoided, but some of it could have been avoided, and you have a responsibility to do that. And if you actually take the problem of climate change seriously, this is the irony. People who want to blame this on climate change do so in the same sort of nihilistic spirit that liberals often virtue signal about problems that they have no intention of actually solving. There was a CNN segment, we're going to cover it on our show, I think, this week sometime, where the anchors are talking about how people take climate change just about as seriously now as they did 30 years ago. There's really been no progress on that issue. And I think the reason there's been no progress on that issue is because the same people who want to alarm you about climate change prove themselves so unserious when it comes to solving every other problem that they claim they want to solve. Right? A party that claims it wants to empower working people and even the playing field, but allows a Senate parliamentarian to block a minimum wage. Well, how are you going to sell someone on climate change, which is a much more abstract issue than a wage? Right? So if you prove yourself totally unserious and only about a certain virtue signal that scores political points, then yeah, don't be surprised when people don't buy it. And materially, which is the more important part of this, if you think that your city is at increased risk because of climate change, then don't you owe it to your city to prepare even more? Like, that is what you are empowered to do as a municipal authority. You're not empowered to dictate to China what they put in the air. If you think that's a problem, well, your jurisdiction as mayor of Los Angeles is your city and your people, and the same goes for Newsom in the state of California. You have to adjust. If you take the problem seriously, you have to demonstrate that. They did not. They seem to just be hoping for the best. That Rogan clip that we showed where he said, I was talking to a firefighter, and a firefighter told me it's just a matter of time before the winds blow in just the right direction at just the right speed. And when that happens, we're fucked. There's not a thing we can do. It seems like Newsom and Bass's plan for that was just to cross their fingers and hope that day never came on their watch. But it did.
Yes. There was an interesting article, I shared it with you and Jimmy, where a couple of firefighters / fire experts say, hey, it's not even just a wildfire issue. You have to harden all the architecture against fire. You have to take measures, special paints, special reinforcements, fireproof materials, that essentially you have to do what cities did after all of these major fires burned down Chicago, New York burned down a couple times. It's not as famous because it happened earlier on. I think the second time was in 1835, but not since. And it said, they completely reconceived how they built cities. That's why you don't see like wood tenements. You see brick tenements. Right. So they were saying you have to think that way. Like if you want to continue to habitate this region, you're going to have to harden all of the architecture against these kinds of fires. Trying to deal with forestry management, it's not enough. Because when you do get these fires breaking out, what really causes this are the sparks landing on the houses.
Well, sure.
And then once those, so you're not going to solve it just by dealing with that. You're going to have to increase your fireproofing materials. And okay, but God, to do that to all of LA, what are you talking about? Trillions?
No, you're talking about a major reorganization and reprioritization of society as a whole. You're also talking about, quite frankly, you're talking about having to empower the state in ways that a lot of people who flee California to Texas are not comfortable with. In New York, we have burn bans when the conditions are dry. When there's been a drought and there's going to be winds, there are bans on outdoor burns. And there are bans on outdoor burns in Southern California as well. I don't know to what extent that gets communicated to people, how strictly those are enforced. But yeah, man, like if you're having 14-year high winds and you have a metro area built on arid grassland, that hosts 14 million people, and you haven't had rain in a year, yeah, there's got to be very strict enforcement. You can't be lighting fires outside. You can't be flicking cigarette butts in your backyard. Now, if you tell people you're going to get a ticket for smoking a cigarette outside and no fire happens, guess what? All of the chud accounts who are raging at Newsom for being woefully unprepared for this now, they're all going to say, this is why you need to move to Texas because the commies in California won't let you smoke a cigarette. Well, look, at a certain point, you can't have everything. I mean, what do you want? Right. What do you want? Right. There are trade-offs, and you have to negotiate that, and that's what politics is. So this is what I mean. Like to prevent this entirely, you're talking about really, really big picture changes that have to happen. And, people are either going to be down for those or not. That's an open question, because if you exert the kind of control over the society that you would really need to really minimize the chances of these fires, a lot of people aren't going to go for that. And I'm not saying they're wrong not to go for that, right? Like people don't want to have the government's boot on their neck in that way. The reality is that makes these fires more likely. I mean, that's just like what do you want? Like, there's no such thing as a utopia.
Right. You would need collective action of a kind that we're not really capable anymore. Right. You need a Hoover Dam kind of collective will in society. And I still believe, based on what I know and what I researched when I lived in the region, that you can't have populations this size there. You're going to have to downsize it to make it habitable in a sustainable way. And at the same time, you've got to completely reimagine the architecture. You've got to completely reimagine the whole urban design of Los Angeles. Do we have the collective will as a society? We're a pretty long way from the in 10 years we'll be on the moon America.
Right.
Yeah, we're pretty long way from those people. Yeah, it can be done with collective will. Do we have that as a society? I don't think so.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think so either. Sparky says climate's going to change. LA fires are primarily because of crisis of corruption, met crisis of incompetence more than the climate crisis. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thanks to Greg Foreman. Thanks to Matt Orfala. Thanks to the team for another great run with us. Thank you for your support. Malcolm, Andrew, Chris, Misha, the whole gang, Jimmy and Steph. We hope you get home safe to a safe home. I guess tomorrow you guys are heading back, if I understand.
Flying back tomorrow.
Flying back tomorrow. Okay. All right, cool. Well, we hope the team all keeps in touch. You guys have been great. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. Appreciate you guys very much. Appreciate the team here. Russell, that's all we got, correct?
That's all we got. Thank you all very much for having us. We'll see you again next time.
All righty. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Here's a little song I wrote. You're mandated to sing it note for note. You'll own nothing. And be happy. It's time for the new world order. Confiscating the bricks and mortar, own nothing. And be happy. Digital currency, electric cars. Try to run, but you won't get far. Own nothing. Be happy. You're getting the hang of this. Okay, fewer people, less CO2. I'm determined to see it through. Own nothing. And be happy. See, look how happy I am. We eat the wheel, you eat the bugs. Don't comply and get jailed, thug. Own nothing. Be happy. Another pandemic is on the horizon, but I'll just sit back and enjoy a Hefeweizen. Own nothing. Be happy. Everybody. That's right. Here's a little song I wrote. You better sing it, note for note. Oh, nothing. Be happy. I'm so carefree. You want some things to call your own, and we can't wait to come take your home. You own nothing. Hey, be happy.
Hey, it's time to upgrade your coffee. 1775 Vitality coffee isn't just coffee, it's brain fuel. No kidding. With lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga, and turkey tail mushrooms. I've heard of turkey tail mushrooms. It's coffee that doesn't just wake you up, it keeps you sharp. Lion's mane and reishi supercharge your focus. Cordyceps delivers energy without the crash, and their hand-picked Bolivian beans deliver bold flavor that corporate coffee can't touch. No fillers, no nonsense, just coffee that works as hard as you do. Proudly backed by Rumble, this isn't coffee for the conformists, it's coffee for the bold, for the free, for the rebellious. Head to 1775coffee.com. Use the code Jimmy for 15% off. Make your mornings great, and coffee that stands for bold flavor, uncompromising quality, and the freedom Rumble fights for every day.